Hey everyone, I'm Spencer.
I'm Lara, and we're married with board games. Oftentimes, European-style games are described as being very dry, with not much thought put into the theme. Sure, there's a theme there, but does it really align with what you're doing in the game?
And that's not to say it's a bad thing if it doesn't, but we personally like our games with strong themes. So that's one of the criteria we had in mind when we did our playthroughs of Lisboa, a 1 to 4 player game from Vital Lacerda and Eagle-Gryphon Games.
In Lisboa, you and your opponents are competing to rebuild the city of Lisbon after a series of catastrophic natural disasters. In this review, we'll share with you our thoughts on the game and how well the theme comes through. Let's head over to the table for an overview of the components and gameplay.
And before I get into this entire component and gameplay overview, I do have a couple of disclaimers. First of all, I am using some upgrade components that Eagle-Gryphon does offer. So if you see pieces that you don't recognize from just the basic game, that's why. Second of all, this is going to be a pretty high-level overview of the game. I'd be here a long time if I wanted to basically teach you the game, so I'm just going to highlight some of the components and some of the basic gameplay aspects of the game. As you can see, wide angle, there are a lot of pieces to the game. It takes up the entire table. Use my hand for scale. The board is large, lots of areas on the board to go to. These player boards called portfolios, they're large. You've got some trays to keep your components in. Even your money takes up space in the form of them being in stacks of money. And we'll touch on this in the review part of it, but the key is not to get overwhelmed by everything that's on the table. Thankfully, in addition to the rule book, there are these player aid books that everybody will get, and it gives you a great overview of what you can do on your turn. The first area on the board I want to draw your attention to is basically this map of Lisbon. Now this represents the area that you're going to be rebuilding. The cubes that you see represent the type of damage that was done, and that's different every game you play. So like the red represents fire damage, the blue represents water in the form of a flood, and then or tsunami, and then the brown cubes represent earthquake damage. Throughout the game, you're going to have opportunities to build buildings and also stores that will go on these streets, and as you do that, you're going to clear these rubble cubes, and you'll be able to add those to your player boards. Each color on this street represents a different type of good, like gold, cloth, books, and tools. As you build, you'll get various amounts of points, and these markers down here represent partially the amount of points you'll get as you build. You can't build without plans. So over in this area of the board, here are the buildings you're going to be putting down, but also the plans that you use to build the buildings. So through your turns, you'll be able to acquire those plans in order to build the buildings. And again, you can put these buildings down in the area I previously showed. This area represents the price of goods. As you produce more and more goods, the value of them decreases, and you can never increase that throughout the game. So you really want to be strategic about when you're producing those goods. Here are ships that you can build throughout the game, and then right here is your treasury track. So throughout the game, the amount of gold inside the treasury will increase and decrease. So that affects how much money you get paid through certain actions. And also this affects your influence throughout the game. So there's this tug of war, this push and pull of the treasury and your influence. Speaking of influence, this is the influence track. There's a marker for each player, and this will keep track of where your influence is throughout the game. You'll be spending influence to do things like visiting nobles. To visit a noble, you'll play a card up here at the top part of the board, and you can visit one of these 3 nobles to do one of their respective actions. For the builder, you can build a store. For the minister, you can take a decree. And for the king, you can open a public building. I mentioned taking a decree. Those are these cards there at the top of the board. Those are ways you can get bonus points at the end of the game. On your player board is where you will store your goods that you acquire, where you'll keep track of the rubble cubes that you take from when you rebuild the city, where you will keep your plans, royal favors, state officials, building markers, and clergy tiles. The cards in this game are multi-use, depending on how you want to use them. For the first action that you have available to you, you can play a card into your portfolio, which this is referred to as your portfolio. If it's a noble card, like this one, you play it in the top part of your portfolio. And when you do, you gain the bonus that is here as it slides down. If it's a treasury card, like this one, you play it in the bottom part of your portfolio, like so. You will gain money from the treasury and move the treasury down one space. After you do either of those things, you can either sell goods or trade with the nobles. So to recap what you have available to you on your turn to do, you can play any card to your portfolio. You can play a noble card to the royal court over here. You can play a treasury card to the royal court. So what you would do essentially here is you play it there, and then you sponsor an event. So you pay for this, and then you get whatever is on the card. And then if you can't do any of those actions, you discard a card, then take a gold, and then take a new card. Now, the first period is over when either one player collects 2 sets of rubble cubes, or 3 decks over here are empty. Then you play a second period, and then once either 4 sets of rubble cubes are complete, or 3 decks of cards are empty, that period ends as well. A final round will commence, and then you'll perform in-game scoring, and the player with the most wigs wins. Okay, so a lot there on the table.
A lot.
A lot that fits inside of this giant box.
Yes.
How much worth?
£9 to be precise.
Yep.
When you first handed this to me, when it came in the mail, I went, oh my goodness, this weight. It felt like it weighed as much as our 15-month-old. We just took the shrink off and threw it on a scale, and it's only £9, but still, £9 worth of game.
£9 a game.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, so speaking of the game, let's talk about the physical and the visual aspects of this game.
Okay.
First of all, the visual presentation of this game, I feel like, is a masterpiece by Mr. Ian O'Toole.
Oh, I know.
I love the colors. I love just it feels like it's just totally fits the game.
Oh, yes. I mean, in his, not just like the theme. Well, I mean, yes, the theme. Historically, it fits. I mean, they're probably showing structures that may or may not be standing anymore. I'm sorry. I love history, but I do not know anything about this event in history. I need to go research that now that we've done this. But I mean, like this statue.
Yeah.
Is that even still standing, or different things that are represented within the game that he could have basically just gone off of historical research. We know the money is that way, and even the color scheme. That seems like it would be something that of that period that would be popular. I'm not an art historian, so I'm not aware of what the popular colors were back then, but I'm sure that this is something very close to it. It beautifully represents that time period.
Yeah. Well, one of the things that I like is just the attention to detail that he put into this game.
Right.
One of the things that I like is on one of the player boards, the portfolios, I was looking at it, I was like, is that a hair on there?
Yes,
And
he kept rubbing it, and I was like, what is your deal?
It's a little crack in the tile. And I just love that. I love little things like that you just, could have just been a solid color, but he put a little bit of attention to detail. So fantastic job on the visual aspect of the game. Like I said, I feel like it's a masterpiece. It just looks great.
Oh, I know.
And continuing on that from the physical aspect, let's go to the components.
Okay.
What do you think about those?
Well, you're going to be investing plenty of money into this game, and in that you're going to want to invest plenty of time into it. You want those components to hold up, and that is something you're going to get out of this game.
Yes.
These components are not going to wear out anytime soon.
No.
And that's something to know. You're getting a good bang for your buck.
Well, yeah, so you've got the cards, you've got the cardboard, you've got the wood, all pieces like that. That cardboard is really thick, and it's not something that's just going to, bend. I mean, it's very thick cardboard that's going to stand up. It's got some great heft to it.
And what I like about that, we were just talking about how we love the art of it. When you have a good thick cardboard like that, the artwork's not going to wear off that quickly. And because, those things are going to kind of rub up against each other in the box, especially if you're transporting them to go play with other people. That kind of stuff happens. The stuff starts wearing off, and that's not going to happen with this again, because they married beautiful artwork with heavy-duty quality components.
Well, and so you talked about, if you're going to be playing this game a lot, which you should be, if this is your thing, you can even go for that upgrade pack with those additional components, like the more custom meeples and that kind of thing, and even those are great quality. And, you can put all of that in the custom inserts that are in the box.
Yes.
Again, great quality. I feel like no expense was spared in the creation of this game, and it definitely shows. So if that's one of your concerns, it shouldn't be, because it's a well-made game.
And at the end of the day, it's because they are looking out for the consumer. They are looking out for the gamer, that they know you're investing plenty of time and money in this, and they want to make sure you're getting a quality product, and I think they did a great job.
Okay, so let's move from the physical and the visual into the gameplay itself.
Okay.
All right, so the mechanisms in this game, on the surface, if you were just to glance at like your options, it shows you've got 4 actions, right? Mm-hmm. But it's so much more than that. This is what I would call a very intricate machine, in that, think of gears, right?
I think of, I used to work in a jewelry shop. I think of the movement in a watch. That's what they call everything under the face watch, or the
watch face.
Yes, sorry, thanks. Everything under there is called the movement, and there's everything in there is moving constantly, just to make those tiny little hands on the face tick. And that's what happens in this game. All of those gears and everything interact with each other. Every single choice that you make within this game interacts with everything on this board almost.
Well, you put like one card, and it affects 3 or 4 things down the line. And each of those things, you pretty much have an option on which way to go with those things as well. And so you have, not only do you have an option of playing a card, but where are you playing it? Are you playing it on your portfolio? Are you playing it there to the court?
And which part of the card are you using?
Yes.
There's like a thing here and a thing in the middle, and you decide what part of it you're going to enact. And
so lots of options there, and really lots to explore. It's one of those things where it's going to take some time to really find the best way, to really maximize your actions, the return on how you're spending those actions. And I'll be honest, we haven't found that yet.
Right.
Just because, it does take a lot of time to really play through, unless you're just brilliant. But I don't think that's to say that this is like inaccessible, right?
Right. I can see how, and I fell victim to that looking at it set up is very easy to look at that and think you're going to be overwhelmed. And there's so many things that they've included in that. They thought of that to help you transcend that. You're not going to be overwhelmed. As far as what you were talking about with the player boards, helping you know your options of what you can do on your turn. Each player has their own rule book.
Yeah, the player aid book,
Yes, that can help really clarify a lot of things for you, and even the rule book itself helps with that as well, so that they are pretty much holding your hand through it, so that because they want you to get the most enjoyable experience out of it.
Well, and this is a game that you just have to know if you're gonna decide if you're gonna invest the time to learn it and become an expert at it. It definitely needs repeat plays. You're not going to be able to develop a solid opinion on the game without a couple of plays.
Right. If you're going to invest the money in this game, be sure you're ready to invest the time too.
Yeah.
And it'll be so worth it.
It will.
Yeah.
And definitely. I don't really have anything else to say on that note.
Definitely.
So again, it's not hard. Just know that you really want to take the time to
there's so many possibilities.
Explore
and you have
those
to find
options.
Them all.
Yeah. And that first game you play is probably going to be a throwaway game just to learn it. But that's okay. I mean, if you're wanting to invest the time in this game, totally worth it.
Definitely.
Now, for me to learn the game, I played the solo mode, right?
Yes.
And I feel like it was great to learn the game, to explore those different actions and what they do and that kind of thing. But as far as like going back to it on a return basis, I don't think I'm going to be doing that. I just feel like there's too much upkeep with the ghost, the dummy player. I feel like I really want to focus on what I'm doing and not what they're doing. And yeah, they do a little bit of rectifying that, and that just some automatic results on what that players should be doing. But for me, it's just too much of, okay, they did this, so they can either do this or this based on where they are on this point, and it's just, I don't know, for me, I don't enjoy that. I'd rather another person be taking care of that.
True, yes. As many options and variables as there are in this game, it's enough to be doing it for one player. I wouldn't want to do it for another.
Yeah. So personally, I prefer at least another person to play with, not necessarily for the solo. But that's not to say that it's not for other people. And again, it's great for learning the game.
Definitely.
One final thing I want to hit on, or two more things really, is first of all, we mentioned the theme at the beginning of the review. How does the theme come through in this game? What do you think?
I think they did a fantastic job. Again, like I've said, I need to go and research more on what happened because it does sound like a fascinating topic. In fact, we were joking about they should make like a mini series to cover what all happened with this. And it's such a broad span of time too that they accounted for that in the game. There's like 3, they don't call them rounds, do they?
Well, there's 2 different eras, essentially.
Eras, yes, and they cover that with cards and whatnot, that these cards have specific dates on them to kind of bracket around those eras for you. And cards in those specific eras have flavor text on them that are talking about specific events that happened in history, and I love that kind of thing.
Well, and then the neat thing is the different action that you're doing, right, based on if you're going to visit, say, the clergy or the king or
architect.
Yes, everything that you do again is thematic with the people that you're going to visit.
Right. So what you're saying is what you get out of that action fits with who you're going to visit. If you're going to visit the clergy, you're going to get some kind of blessing or whatnot. If you're going to the architect, you're going to get plans that you can use later for construction, things like that.
Yeah, and again, it's not just here you go to the church guy and you get a church reward. No,
Church guy.
It's thematic to the history of the situation. And so again, I think that the theme comes through very strong in this game, and you definitely feel like you're a part of this action of rebuilding Lisbon, and all the way through to the rule book itself. The rule book is filled with different excerpts of why this action matters. That's one of the big...
As far as the history.
Yeah, so that's one of the big indicators of how well a theme is so when I'm playing this game, why am I doing what I'm doing? Well, they really explain that in the game. What did this mean back in that time? And I find that wonderful to really connect the actions to history. And another thing about that rule book, I feel like it's done very well. It's laid out, it's written very well, it's explained very well. I watched a how to play video and read the rule book. I really feel like you could learn the game with just the rule book, because even though there's a lot going on, it's explained very well, and big thumbs up for that rule book.
That's awesome. Yeah. So basically, bottom line from us is, for a game that rewards deep thinking, planning ahead, multiple plays, and is heavily thematic, you can't go wrong with Lisboa.
So, Lisboa, like its theme, is built on a strong foundation of many parts. From the visual masterpiece and the physical components, to the intricate design of the mechanisms seamlessly working together, Lisboa is truly a work of art.
Add to that the way the theme intertwines with mechanisms, and you have a very enjoyable gameplay experience. Just know that this is a game that is best after multiple plays. You're not going to truly appreciate everything that's going on after one playthrough.
We do think the solo experience is a little clunky, and the time to set up, play, and break down the game will be a factor that might inhibit the game getting to the table more. But overall, this game gets high marks from us.
In fact, having said all of that, we give Lisboa a rating of 9 and a seal of excellence. You can see the hard work that went into all aspects of the game, and we definitely appreciate that.
Thanks so much for watching. To see more of our reviews, you can find them right here on the Dice Tower's YouTube channel.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews, as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find other great shows at Dicetowernetwork.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games for great prices. Cool stuff in stock. Check them out at CoolStuffInc.com.